3, 2, 1.
Okay, you're gonna need to count with like a beat.
Yeah, sorry. I was okay. 3,
Yeah.
2, 1. Hmm.
I think that was lag from the actual hangout because like when I was watching, like we put our hands together at the same time on
Really?
the video feed. Yeah,
Oh.
at least that's what it looked like to me. I think
Okay.
we're actually good. We'll see. And if
Okay.
we're not, I'll
It's
take a
it's
look when
just
you upload your audio.
it's just a measly. It's 2 audio tracks. It won't be a big deal. He'll figure it out if
Yeah,
we're out of sync. um.
I do believe you are right. Wait, we believe in you, Austin. Thank you.
All right. Welcome everybody to this special edition of slashMLS. It's just me. It's just James. My username is Armascarhu. His is Nefarious Joe. And we're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart: 1998 DC United, and also all the years around them, and why they're the best team in MLS history, and why nobody else could potentially make a claim anything otherwise. James, you
And I
completely
will be
agree
sitting
with
here
that, right?
telling him why he's wrong. Yeah, I no, that's so you'll talk about your thing, I'll talk about my thing. We'll just do it simultaneously, and we'll let the people decide, and it'll be
Yes.
totally intelligible.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so if it's not DC, who is it?
I would argue, as a neutral fan, of course,
Yes,
I would
of
argue
course.
that the Los Angeles Galaxy from 2010 to 2014 is the superior team. But I mean, I suppose we should just get this out of the way. That I think when it comes to who the best coach is in MLS history, we would probably agree.
Yeah. We just so happened to every season of yours was coached by Bruce Arena, and all but one of mine was coached by Bruce Arena. So he is
Yeah,
pretty much the MLS god. And so here's the thing. So I was okay. So I doing some research for this topic that I guess now the debate has started or whatever. I
sure.
rewatched
Yeah, state your case, please.
I rewatched the 1998 MLS Cup final recently. It made me really mad. First of all, I thought I was over it. 16 and a half years later, no, no, I'm still pissed off.
You'll
Um,
never be over it, Ian. You'll never be over it.
probably not. That was really maddening. Like even though we won like or 3 championships, like before that and after that, that one that would have made it 4 in a row. I don't know. It's still anyway. But apparently Bruce Arena was about to be pulled away to be announced as the U.S. head coach like 2 days later after that final. So they talked about him on the broadcast and everything, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But anyway,
That is interesting. I didn't know he took over quite that early. But yeah, I
yeah,
guess it makes sense.
I didn't know it was so soon. I guess we had an interim to coach us in the Copa Interamericana. But
Right.
speaking of the Copa Interamericana, we beat a Brazilian team over 2 legs for a hemispheric championship that we were so good they discontinued the competition. So we were like the last ever. And
Right, and yeah, they couldn't take the embarrassment of having lost to us, and so they're saying, well, it didn't count anyway, so we will begin the process of erasing it from history.
but they played a kind of a legit squad. I looked back at those Vasco da Gama teams, and the players that played were legit players who had played for Brazil and shit, and it was good.
Hmm.
Um, so basically, on those DC teams, you had 12 or 13 national teamers for both America and Bolivia and El Salvador. El Salvador didn't matter so much because they weren't in a World Cup at any time. I don't recall, but a lot of national teamers, a lot of stars, a lot of players coming from Virginia. Bruce Arena coached in Virginia, coming through to MLS to play for Bruce Arena and winning championships
Right.
in MLS, like Richie Williams and Ben Olsen and who else? I think Jeff Vegas, one of those guys. Um, it was basically the start of MLS competency, and it's it's really fascinating watching those teams, like watching that game, the '98 game.
Mm.
That DC team plays exactly like this LA team plays, with extremely high pressure and playing through the midfield, and it was really fascinating. But that team was better because we had so many national teamers, and then they won eight
And that's
eight
that's
major
the only measure, of course.
eight major championships over 4 years. You'll argue a slightly worse league, but I might argue against that. And yeah,
I'll,
that's
I'm
what
gonna argue a hell of a lot more than slightly, but yes, go ahead.
no, that's my opener. We
Okay,
won
okay.
8 titles over 4 years. We played the pretty we played pretty soccer. They said they couldn't be done early in MLS, and we did it. And we almost bankrupt MLS to do it, but fuck damn it, we did it.
Well, okay, so it should be noted that the constraints, like despite what people may believe, what you just said does bring up an interesting point. That the constraints that this current LA team is working under now, or this past one, really, we'll say that that dynasty is officially over with the end of Landon Donovan, even though we're going to win this year anyway. But
We'll see.
they're operating under more constraints than potentially a number of the teams in the in the mid to late '90s did. DP rule aside, but I mean, while we're spending more dollars, there's probably more money comparatively going around the entire squad with guys like Marco Echeverri, whose salaries were not made public at all.
Right.
However, I would absolutely argue against the idea that the number of championships in that case. I don't want to say that MLS Cups at the time didn't count. I'm not saying that you should turn in your stars or anything like that, but it was easier to win an MLS Cup in 1997 than it would have been in 2013, 2014. And a supporters shield especially, like winning a supporters shield in 2010 and 2011 was significantly harder than it would be to get the equivalent at the time in the late 90s, because there are just so many fewer good teams. And while you are right that DC was stacked with talent, especially relative to CONCACAF at the time, they're the only team that was. They're the only team. Like now, you look at somebody like the Sounders and you say, damn, that team is stacked. Or you look at somebody, even like the New England Revolution now, and I think that people are going to look back on this team in, say, 5 years and say, damn, that team had a ton of talent on it. You could say that about a lot of teams in MLS now that you just could not at the time.
So, I don't know that I totally agree with that, because here are some players that didn't play for DC that year that scored a fair amount of goals. You guys had a lot. Y'all had Kobe Jones. Y'all had Cienfuegos. Y'all had this Brazilian named Welton.
Right.
The
Who was our top scorer for a long time.
I forgot that he existed until just now. The Fire had a lot of good players in the '90s. They had Chris Aramis. They had Lubos Kubik. Obviously, I'm just naming guys who I literally just watched beat us, and I'm still mad at. Peter Novak. Another interesting thing, that team had 4 eventual MLS head coaches in Novak,
that's right.
Tom Sohn, Klopas, and Jesse Marsh. Chris
I
Armas.
remember seeing that in the 2000 MLS Cup final as well. Like the ridiculous number of guys, like when Peter Vermees was playing at the same time as well.
Yeah, it was kind of nuts. But I mean, there were a lot of good players going around. I mean, you had Carlos Valderrama, you had Preki, you had Roy Wegerle, who was on the '94 team, and we traded him to Tampa to get Roy Lassiter, who obviously he was really good, but he didn't play for us, for a while.
And he also didn't play for nearly as well as he played for Tampa Bay, because he had merely Marco Echeverri and as opposed to Carlos Valderrama. Sorry, that was a dig. That was mean.
Hey. I don't know if it's... Let's see.
Valderrama, he scored 10 fewer goals a year for you than he did for them. No, it's... No, he was
Well,
he was totally fine, I'm sure.
he had a kind of a bad '97 year, I think, from what I remember. But um, there was talent to spread around, and I think MLS kind of made it that way because after the '94 World Cup, now it can be debated how many of those players were actually competent and how much of that was those U.S. players existing in the limelight due to the awesome coachings of Bora Milutinovic. But 20 of those players played in MLS in the '90s, and only like 4 or 5 of them went to DC. Alexi Lawless went between New York and New England and Kansas City.
And us eventually, actually.
Yes, Eric Winaldo was around. He scored the first ever MLS goal. Tab Ramos was around. So
I do. It's true. I'm not saying that like no good players exist on other teams, but if we're looking at the best players, the top 5 players in each team. Now, I would argue that the top 5 players on every team now would beat the ever loving shit out of the top 5 players on whichever ones we picked because there's so many more teams now. But if we're looking at 6 through 11, and then especially 11 through 18, that's where the drop-off really happens. And that's a drop-off that still exists. When we're looking at players 11 through 18, the reason why the Galaxy have been good, and in fact we'll get there when we'll start talking about that, is because of the strength of those players. They're not 11 through 18, 12 through 18 is the strength of that bench, which barely exists for most teams now and was completely non-existent then.
So we had players like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, we had a couple of pretty good players coming off the bench. We had Brian Kamler. He was pretty important. He came off the bench. We had somewhat of a goalie controversy. But yeah, there were a lot of players. A lot of benches were thin. They didn't go beyond that first or second guy in the '90s. But like you said, not much has changed in the last 16 years.
That is true. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I would say though that your average MLS journeyman has gotten so much better. I know I've been talking about him on the podcast a lot lately, but Dan Gargan.
Yeah.
Dan Gargan is a superstar in the '90s. I mean, if he goes out, and that's now, that's him at 32, like with that, running on 32-year-old legs. If you take somebody with that level of talent and you put him on the LA Galaxy in 1997, he is the fourth, fifth best player on the team. And he's 11 out of 11 in terms of our starters right now. Or at the time of the playoffs, I guess not anymore.
I don't think he cracks DC's starting 11. DC 98 starting 11.
Okay, sure, potentially. I mean, but again, I mean, DC's results count for less because of the league that they were playing in. If we're just stacking up trophy for trophy.
Yeah, they might count for less, but we still have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 8 trophies in that time, and you guys still don't have 8. You guys have what, 5, 6? How many do you have?
Since 2010, so it would be Supporter Shield in 2010, Double in 2011, MLS Cup in 2012, nothing in 2013, and then MLS Cup in 2014. So 5 in the same period.
So 5. All right, so
I would also, and the next part of that equation, obviously, is because you got to remember is that LA has a continental title too from 2000 before the CCL era, and that's because the format was so much more forgiving for MLS teams at the time. Now they make it so that it is impossible to get through that competition without having to go up against Mexican teams. Not the case in the 90s.
You guys didn't play a Mexican team at all.
Yeah, not one.
we played a Mexican team in the final. We played Toluca or Pachuca or something. I don't know, but we beat them.
It's entirely possible that they cared even less than they do now. But no, I mean, it's not the grind that it was. It took place at a better time
Yes.
of year for us. It wasn't. It just wasn't as difficult. It simply wasn't as hard to win back then.
Okay,
And
but we
so
did win.
you did, and that makes you great for the period. I mean, if we're talking about the
Yeah.
best team of the '90s, if we're talking about the best MLS 1.0 team, it is 100% DC United. I will back that up the whole way, and that is over my beloved Galaxy. I mean, I would say that the Galaxy would be a pretty clear number 2, but even still, not that close. Not that close.
I mean, Chicago did win a title, and they beat both of us that year, and they won the double in '98. It's hard to take that away
And
from
then what
them.
did they do?
I don't know, but that's 2 more titles than you guys won.
At the time, yeah. No, I mean it's true, but it's.
So you mentioned Dan Gargan. You mentioned how he doesn't track the starting 11 for LA most of the time, and he wouldn't crack the starting 11, I don't think, of '90s DC most of the time. I think that's a good place to start. Like that's good common ground. Like I think on those levels, our talent levels were pretty similar. Now we talked before the show about defense, about how there didn't seem to be so much defense in MLS back then, and we kind of had a
yeah, and I think you should definitely list off some of those goal figures you were looking at.
So, right. So in 1998, DC and LA were the 2 best teams by far in the regular season. We had a plus 30 goal difference. Y'all had a plus 41 goal difference. By the way, neither of those goal differences were matched until this year when you guys had a plus 31.
Yeah.
Like we were the only plus 30 or above goal differences for a really long time.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, kind of neat.
Yeah, it is.
Still super mad that we didn't get to play in the final, but whatever. So over 32 games, 2 fewer games than we play now, y'all scored 85 goals and we scored 81. And my 8-year-old brain remembers...
And still we only had plus 30 and plus 40, plus 31, plus 41 goal differences. Like,
yeah,
it's scoring you're giving up almost 50 goals, like you're in a season over 32 games. That's a ludicrous number.
Yes. For comparison, let's see. Let's look at today's table. For comparison,
yeah.
Y'all had a plus 32 goal difference, allowing 37 goals over 34 games. The team that allowed the most was Colorado, who allowed 62 over 34 games, and our two teams allowed 51 and 44 goals respectively.
Yeah.
Over 32 games. So yeah, the defense was at a premium for sure. But I don't think just because offense was more of a thing in 90s MLS, and this incidentally, Chicago winning that MLS Cup and having success and going to the 1-2 years later, some people kind of mark that Bob Bradley bringing in this defensive style, this Eastern European style of defend and counter. And there were a couple of people who lamented it because a lot of people really liked the attacking 90s that were dominated by people like Valderrama and Echeverri and Cienfuegos. And I just because defense is better now doesn't mean that the soccer is better.
I would argue that it absolutely means that because so you're looking at an LA team now that is putting up numbers in terms of attacking numbers that were similar to the numbers at a time where you had an absolutely lopsided talent pool, where attacking was vastly preferred and vastly overemphasized in comparison to... I mean, this was at a time when our goalkeepers weren't even that good. Can you imagine that? Like that just seems crazy now, where like the goalkeepers in MLS and American goalkeepers weren't that great.
Well, I think that year it started to shift in '98 because y'all had because Campos was getting beat out, Miola was still in the league.
Yes.
Thornton was coming to he was coming around. Howard would be there a couple years later. Like that's about when it started. The late
Totally
'90s.
agreed. Yeah. And
early
when did Friedel go back to the? I mean, because he was there in the very beginning with Columbus, right? I don't quite remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Friedel was definitely there, because
right.
he,
I just don't know the years on that. Like, I don't know when he was over at Galatasaray versus when he finally went over to England, things like that. I don't remember his career off the top of my head.
I,
But no, I totally agree. That's like that's when the shift sort of began. Was the very beginning of the dark ages of MLS. Was when uh, goalkeepers and to a lesser extent defenders, but certainly say the defensive mids that are starting to really come into their own now. That's when that trend started. Uh, but if you have a team that scores a lot of goals against bad defenses, it's not that impressive to me. It's just not.
but it's not just scoring goals. It's scoring a lot more goals than everybody else.
Yes.
And
Okay.
and I
No,
just
please.
I am not convinced that everybody in MLS was so terrible. Because okay, I'm looking at these teams on the bottom. Tampa Bay, they still had Valderrama, but they were in 5th place, minus 15 goal difference. They were terrible. They missed the playoffs. New England had Lawless. Kansas City had Preki and Miola. San Jose had Winalda. All those teams missed the playoffs with pretty quality players.
With a quality player.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, there is that depth issue.
Chivas had Kubo. I mean, like.
That's true. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's something that MLS teams are proving over and over and over again with the absolute complete misunderstanding with how you're like what kind of DP you're supposed to sign. One team or one player does not a winning team make. It doesn't matter how good they are or have been in the past.
So another funny thing about talking about DPs and
Yeah.
like another funny thing about the '98 Cup final was listening to the Doug Logan interview, the random Doug Logan interview in the 77th minute when things were getting really tense and DC was getting really pissed off. When he was talking about decreasing the number of international slots from 5 to 4. Because he was talking about wanting to bring in more quality international players, which meant bringing in guys like Lothar Matthaus,
Yeah, of course.
who would do so great in MLS. By the way,
Who was a Red Bull legend or a Metro
Yeah.
Stars legend? Excuse me, sorry guys.
Oh yeah, Metro Stars were great. By the way, I loved having the Metro Stars in the league. We kicked their ass pretty regularly in that time period.
Yeah, that's like saying it's like, man, San Jose, a wonderful addition to MLS in 2013. Oh man. Like,
Well, so the DC New York thing, the DC Metro Stars thing, it started with the '96 playoffs. It was like the very first playoff series in MLS history, and it was like a brutal one. Like we lost our first game at RFK, but we lost the first game in the Metro Star Stadium in Rutherford or whatever. And then the second game we won, and then the third game we won too, and one of them was a shootout. I don't remember which one it was. I also don't really care. But it was basically a bloodbath where one of them was won in a penalty kick in the 89th minute. I think that was game 2. And the fans got after each other, and the players got after each other, and it was really great for everybody in the league. And that's basically when our rivalry started. And then, of course, we played in the final, and that's when our rivalry got started. And I wish it would return. This is basically us trying to restoke those fires.
I am fully willing to go there because of you, of course. I've got a personal investment in it now, but I don't think that Ben Olsen and Bruce Arena really look at each other as competing for the same awards, kind of. I mean, other than Coach of the Year, which Ben Olsen wins for doing terribly and then doing well, but.
So here's the thing. I'm gonna attack your squad finally because I haven't done that yet. So I'm going down the list and writing down my team starting 11 versus your team starting 11.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And
Okay, so this is the real because this is the real question.
might have
I
been
will absolutely concede that DC United in 1996 through 1999 was better was had a larger gap in quality between it and the other teams than LA did now,
yeah,
as evidenced by the fewer
fewer
trophies.
trophies. Yes.
Yeah, I will absolutely concede that point. However, if we're going 18 against 18, if we're playing in a 5 game series, I don't care what, we're gonna win every time. Like this is not like a
All right. So I'm gonna start. You probably win the goalie battle because you're gonna put who? Pinedo, Ricketts. Who are you putting against
uh
my?
I would put Ricketts circa 2010. Like after yeah, like 2010 2011 Ricketts. After 2012 he wasn't quite the same as
All right.
our Portland brethren could attest.
Are you ready to be scared about this name I'm about to throw at you?
Go, yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Tom Prestis.
Oh my. Oh my.
You,
Surely
you,
you don't mean World Cup winning Tom Prestis.
you know it. The same. The very same.
The one and the same.
All right.
The guy who taught Manuel Neuer everything he knows.
So So we lose the goalie battle. I
Yeah,
concede the goalie battle straight up. The other guys
sure.
I'd put in that spot are maybe Scott Garlick. We had a guy in '96 whose name I'm blanking on. He's probably better than both those guys. Oh, Mark Simpson. So I think he was in the running to be in the
Okay.
national team, but maybe
All
he
right.
just
All right.
goes there. But
All right.
point
So
is,
if we go
we don't know
position,
that.
okay, wait, just so I know what we're doing. Are you doing like your starting 11 in DC of 1998, or are you trying to put against the starting 11 in say 2012, right? Or are we stacking up players the best one in each position? So are you saying like your best right back from our era versus like LA's best right back in the era? Because then
So,
again,
in my opinion, with one exception, the best player at each position is from the '98 team for DC.
okay, okay, and would that one exception be goalkeeper?
Oh, two exceptions.
Oh, okay. Well, I was like, I want to make it fair for you. You know what I mean? I want to keep it interesting. So
Because, like,
we can either go guys who are actually on the field at the same time, or we can go with
no,
like a
go
best.
stack your team. Do it.
Okay,
I don't
okay,
mind.
let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So if we're talking goalkeeper, then yes, 2011 Ricketts.
Okay.
Before, but not the one who got injured before the final in 2011 and 2012. So Josh Saunders would come in both times. But
So I'm just gonna go ahead and put in 1996 Mark Simpson, if you're okay with that. And
sure, yeah, please.
that's my real answer.
Okay.
All right. So for
And this is
the
good because because both played 4-4-2s. You guys were a diamond, we're flat, whatever. Yeah, no, it works out.
yes.
Go like
So
for like.
for defense, I have Eddie Pope, Carlos Simosa, Jeff Agus, and I keep forgetting who because they flip flopped. One was the defender and one was the midfielder, but they were both on the wing.
Hmm.
Between Tony Sane and John Harkes, I'm gonna go with John Harkes.
In defense?
Yeah, so he and Tony Sane both played like
Okay.
they would
Well,
they would
I just mean, wasn't John Harkes better in the midfield? I mean, that's honestly that's how I remember it. But I'm sure you saw him play that position more than I did.
I mean they switched. I mean Tony Sane basically played. I'll go ahead and put Tony Sane there because he played the Andy Nahar, Sean Franklin role.
Right,
You
right.
know, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny. Like the whole reason why I was asking this discussion was just so I could put Sean Franklin for LA. But
All right, your turn.
okay. So across the back line during that period. Okay, so I would say Sean Franklin, Omar Gonzalez, Greg Berhalter, and ooh, that last one is tough. Robbie Rogers has been great, but it's only been 1 year. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Todd Donovan. And Todd Donovan and Sean Franklin actually had really good understanding with each other. You know, like one would actually instead of doing something like KC or RSL, like one would go forward and the other one would stay back and maintain shape. What a concept. So yeah, I would say I don't know, man. I mean, that's a lot of international caliber talent on both sides, but
I mean,
mm,
has Donovan played in a World Cup quarterfinal? Has Sean
uh,
Franklin played in a World Cup quarterfinal?
well, no, but that's because they weren't on the 2002 team. Like, that's literally the only reason. Like, well, I guess also because neither of them had particularly many call-ups. Sean Franklin more unjustifiably than Todd Donovan. I always wondered why Sean Franklin never got a call-up.
That is weird to me, especially with our great fullback shortage
Yeah,
of the
right. Like
last
he's
8 years.
exactly like he's not exactly. I mean, I'm not saying that the guy's a world beater by any stretch, but I think he's only been to Camp Cupcake once or twice, and that's it. Um, yeah, very strange. He's like AJ De La Garza. Like he's gotten like a couple of token call-ups, but never for anything meaningful. But
Mhm.
all right, moving on to midfield.
Moving on to midfield, where we've got this is great. So Richie Williams is the bottom of our diamond.
Okay.
Marco Echeverri is obviously on the top, and
Yeah.
then John Harkes and Ben Olsen on the wings.
Okay. This is another situation where like LA has definitely got a couple of good problems here. So
This could be a point in your favor because I just this was the team. Well, this might be a point in my favor too because there was all this continuity was great. I loved there not being rules in early MLS. That was fun.
just being able to do whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's something that Bruce Arena was very good at was finding ways to make continuity happen through transparent means or not.
Mhm.
So for the LA's best midfield at the time, Landon Donovan, obviously,
Yeah.
David Beckham, obviously. Uh, do I want to put Juninho in there, or do I want to put somebody else? Like, there's, uh, oh my God, I can't believe I'm putting Marcelo Sarvis on the bench for this. Good God. And then Juninho because that defensive ability is simply too good, and also like when Beckham was soaking up marks away from him and like he was actually launching in like 5 goals a year. Oh my God, that was the best. And then you got to have that X factor. I got to put in Mike McGee. God, that's so weird. I never would expect that. Oh man.
I did not expect Mike McGee showing up on this roster. I will have to say.
Neither would I. That's really strange. That is definitely tough.
So what's he doing there ahead of Sarvis and Juninho, or you have Juninho ahead of Sarvis and the other guys?
Well, the real thing is, I mean, I guess you could say, I mean, they're
Like,
in
who are you
like
leaving off?
2009, Beckham, like in Sean Franklin's rookie year, like Beckham was playing on the right because Franklin was just running up and down all day, and he was just like pulling in. And with Franklin playing as like a true wing back, and we essentially had a 3-man central midfield
Yeah.
with not Sarvis and Juninho. But it's I'm also trying to put together like instead of just the 4 best midfielders that we had during that stretch, like put out 4 guys that actually could have worked. Yeah, because if it was just like the 4 best players that we've ever had in the midfield, it would be, or during that period, Donovan, Beckham, Sarvis, Juninho, period. But but Beckham and Sarvis played the same position. Sarvis played a little bit on the left in his first year with the team, but not really in a way that made him look particularly comfortable, and certainly not very often. McGee as a goal scorer, especially in the playoffs, obviously, was too valuable coming out of the midfield, and nobody ever marked him. it was so strange. Like even when he moved to Chicago, people just didn't mark him. I don't get it. Yeah, it's the same thing that happened with Lee Win during this year. Like he just found himself wide open all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So okay,
with New England, it kind of makes sense just because they have
they
so
got so
many.
many people running all over the place all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what we've got here is Richie Williams versus Juninho, John Harkes and Ben Olsen versus, I guess, what would be Beckham and
Well, it would
McGee.
be Donovan and McGee on the wings for that particular lineup. I mean,
Okay.
Beckham would have to be a central mid in that particular lineup.
Right. Okay. So your wings are Donovan and McGee versus my wings of Harkes and Olsen. And
Yeah, and also McGee and one of the forwards that I'm going to mention, who is probably a real head scratcher for most people, also got a very good understanding just before he left.
are you having a surprise? Are you picking someone
Uh,
surprising to?
yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I'm going to give you two guys that you would never guess. But anyway, yeah. So
Okay.
so that would be LA and, or excuse me, that would be Landon and McGee on the outside.
Okay. Okay, so your outside guys, Landon and McGee, versus my outside guys, Harkes and Olsen. I'm gonna claim a draw on that one.
Oh, bullshit! I am so sorry, but are you really trying to tell John Harkes and Mike McGee? They're equal. That's
No,
it.
no.
I mean,
Ben Olsen and Mike McGee, they're equal. They're almost literally the same player.
shit. Oh my god!
For
No
the same
way.
number, they play very similarly. If Ben Olsen had been
Okay, well
traded
then you're trying to tell me that John Harkes and Landon
almost
Donovan are the same quality player, which is an absolutely insane thing to contend, and you know it,
John Harkes played in the EPL for a long time before coming to MLS. He should have been the captain of that national team. He would have at least beaten Iran. And
I can't even believe what I'm hearing. Oh my god. Okay, wait, hang on. I need a moment.
okay, so what I'm actually claiming is Ben Olsen. Mike McGee is a poor man's Ben Olsen, and John Harkes is a poor man's Landon Donovan. That's what I'm.
Oh, that's insane. Oh, that's crazy. I mean, I didn't watch enough of Ben Olsen to really make a like-for-like comparison there, but God, it's tough.
Ben Olsen missing out on the '06 World Cup, or not the '06 World Cup, the '02 World Cup, was significant.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I mean, like that's one of like the famous snubs, like Twellman in '06, things like that.
No, he wasn't snubbed. He got hurt.
Oh, he got hurt? Oh, I didn't
Broke
realize.
his leg. Yeah.
Or one of the famous absences, rather, I guess. Then,
Yeah.
you know what? I have to take McGee off. I got to put Sarvis on there. He's just too good.
Okay.
He's just too good. No, he's too good not to have. And like I mean, the guy was practically good for like, God, it's like 9 goals and 9 assists. Like practically, like he would hover around that both years. Yeah, no way I can't put him on there. So yeah, sorry. Apologies to the McGee family. And we just gave him away for a guy we didn't even get, for a person that they knew that you weren't gonna get. They should have known.
That kind of sucks for you guys. I'm not gonna.
It does a little bit. It does a little bit. Yeah, and I'm worried about what we're gonna try to do with like this now worthless spot. Like, who are we gonna trade it for to try to get? But anyway, but moving on to forwards.
Well, I was gonna say, and in the central midfield we have.
Oh, okay.
Juninho and
So
Beckham
we'll say Juninho and Beckham, yeah.
versus Richie Williams and Marco Echeverri. Now, Richie Williams is clearly the weak link there. So Juninho,
right,
probably over Williams.
And you got to keep in mind, Juninho still young-ish anyway. Like,
Yeah,
he's
that always
25.
It always surprises me that. Yeah.
Like how good he was at how young he was. That's the thing. Like he was playing like a vet when he first came into the league, and he was super young. Yeah. Like the fact that that guy never was top of 24 under 24, like always blew my mind.
Maybe he could help out Brazil next time around. We'll see.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, right. No, really, yeah. Can you imagine like if he was there? Like they were playing like Leonardo was out there in this past World Cup, but
mhm.
I keep saying Juninho's been here for 7 years. We could fucking naturalize that guy at this point. Like,
It's what happened to Yamosa. I mean, he was coming from a country where he wasn't going to get any playing time,
yeah,
and he got naturalized a little bit too late to play on the '98 team, and a lot of people were saying had he played, he would have started alongside Eddie Pope, and maybe we would have done better. You know,
Preki moved here when he was like 27. Like he, and he's great. He's one of my all-time favorite U.S. national team players. That man
yeah,
is not American.
yeah.
Like, and no, he's wonderful. Um, but yeah,
So
no, I don't see any reason why we can't have somebody, stumbling through half English and half Portuguese instead of just half English, half German. Uh, uh,
so
Yeah,
yeah,
but with
like
regards to
like
Echeverry and Beckham, that to me is probably the most interesting matchup that we're going to find across the entire field. Um,
that's what I'm thinking.
yeah, like I mean, like you're gonna argue Moreno over Keane, but you're gonna lose that one. Echeverry versus Beckham.
I don't honestly think I can argue Moreno over Keane. I'll give you Keane.
Okay, okay, but So if we're just talking about David Beckham when he was on the team under Bruce Arena, he was good.
Yeah.
He was great, and
Yep.
he absolutely earned every dollar when he wasn't injured, which is something that would have to be thought of when we're talking about his performance in MLS.
And what's crazy is they basically played almost the exact same role. Echeverry was a little bit more. He was tasked with a little bit more of the creativity, only because Donovan could do some of that too.
Right, and
But
Moreno would, or excuse me, Echeverry spent most of his time in the center of the park versus Beckham, who would try to find the space either deep centrally or further forward, but out wide. So different
right,
stylistically, but definitely played similar roles on those teams. Yes.
both the 99% free kick taker.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
Echeverry's corners were insane. Like even watching that, so he was hurt for the Cup final in '98, which is why Chris Armas was able to shut him down entirely. Also because Chris Armas was, turned out to be really really good at soccer. Um,
Yeah.
but he was hamstrung. He got hurt in the Columbus series, and didn't really recover in time for the final. But still, he was moving pretty well in the first 20 minutes. It was kind of obvious in the last like half hour that he just couldn't move like he was to. His corner kicks, everything. Like he had a corner kick curl and hit the post.
Yeah.
And he had free kicks that either it was a great scoring opportunity because of the headers and just where it was placed in the box, or he did basically all the things with free kicks that Beckham did. Um,
Well.
he
Okay.
he scored very frequently with the free kick
Oh, but
at the very
well, I
beginning.
mean, Beckham as a as
And
a as a scorer from a dead ball situation, I think was his most overrated thing. Obviously, it's what made him most famous. It was what the most highlight reels aspect of it. But that really, to me, scoring from free kicks was one of the least important things that he actually did.
well, it was one of the least important things that Echeverry did too, but he did
Right.
it, and they
That's true. It's true.
that they were our specialists for those things.
Yeah. Now, for the listeners at home, it should be noted that we are talking about Beckham versus Echeverry during their times in MLS. So
Yes.
we're not, nobody's trying to say that Marco Echeverry for the Euro snob who who isn't listening to this, who thinks that the holy name that is David Beckham are unholy, depending on what part of his career you're thinking about. Uh, Not exactly the same time, and certainly not exactly the same level, especially not in terms of global achievement. But of the players on the early DC teams, Marco Echeverry is clearly the one who would actually be the most at home in MLS today, despite the type of position that he plays being pretty much out of vogue.
I still miss him. I mean, when I watched that game today, there was that was the twinge. That was the those locks. I miss them so much. Like
Yeah,
the most nostalgia.
is
Just
there anybody other than uh, Javier Morales who plays the same way that he did?
Valeri comes closest, I think.
Okay, I could see
Um,
that. Yeah, I could see him playing at the tip of a diamond.
yeah, and when Valeri was peak Diego Valeri in Timbers almost supporter shield season in 2013, Valeri reminded me a lot of Echeverry in a lot of ways. Obviously without the hair, without the freakish
Right.
prowess.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but uh, but yeah, he sort of made that Portland midfield go in ways that I hadn't seen since the 90s.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, now that we have Pedro Morales, who I love dearly and hate Vancouver for having discovered and bringing to me, is certainly the most Beckham-like player now. Although he doesn't quite offer all of the things that David Beckham offered, but still very very good. And it is interesting to see how those play styles can still do very well, even if Pedro Morales is doing very well and doing those things on a team that wasn't built specifically to support that play style,
mhm.
which that's what Beckham was doing. Like he was very specifically doing well in a system that was built for him.
It should be noted that Bruce Arena keyed the revitalizations of both Beckham and Marco Echeverry. Marco Echeverry was kind of out of favor in Europe in, I believe, Almeria in Spain, before being brought over, whatever, before we brought him over, and
Before
and
arriving in
yes,
in the capital.
before yes, and Bruce Arena got him into shape and turned him into the playmaker that he always was for the Bolivian national team, and the amazing goal scorer. Like he won Goal of the Year twice in the 90s, incidentally, and one for a midfield goal that I think is like MLS goal of forever. But yeah,
MLS goal of forever.
yeah,
Um, actually, you know what? That might be something fun to talk about in the dearth of news that we're going to have in the coming month. So I think that might be fun to talk about. Best goal that you've ever seen in MLS. I've got a few in mind. But forwards. Okay, so
yes.
who are the forwards for your team?
So Jaime Moreno is obviously there, and it's between Roy Lassiter and Ronald Diaz Arce.
I would go with Arce all day. Myself.
I think so too, if only because Roy Lassiter's best season wasn't with DC, and it's hard for me to put a guy on my team that he
Right.
didn't have his best season with DC. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll put. But he did
Uh,
have a great seasons in 98, 99 for us. But
uh,
I'll put Diaz Arce as my second forward. The
all
only
right.
guy who didn't play on the 98 team. Oh, and
Uh,
Simpson didn't play on the 98 team either. But yeah.
uh, well, you could put Lassiter on the bench because we're going to talk about the bench. Because the thing is that like it might seem even, but then when we talk about the bench, I win. So I'm going to make sure that we talk about it.
Well,
Um,
we'll see. We'll see.
so for the forwards for the Galaxy, I would go with Robbie Keane, obviously, who in terms of the things that they did in MLS, like Landon Donovan had a better period, but during just the time when Robbie Keane was here, he's been either the unquestionable best player in the league or at the very least always part of the conversation. I don't just mean in terms of MVP or anything like that. While I do think that Landon Donovan was a more important piece for the first year and a half that he was here, since he took over the captaincy, he has been the best player in the league by far. Even when injured, he's the best player in the league. Uh, and I think that he's pretty high on best MLS players of all time. I think it's very. I think it is. I think it is arguable that he is the best forward the league has ever seen. Uh, arguable. That is a whole nother discussion because there have been a lot of great forwards in here, despite what people may believe. Uh, but his importance simply cannot be understated. He is a guy who would be amazing no matter what team you put him on. He is a guy that despite what I said earlier, he is a guy who does equal wins because he is that good and he is that flexible and that intelligent and he makes everybody around him better. And that's sort of what made him and Landon Donovan so special because those are two players. Like I can't even think of another team that has two players that elevate everybody around them as much as those two did, and they were playing on the same team at the same time. You could make the argument that this relationship that Dempsey and Martins have is similar to the one that that Landon and Keane had when they were playing up top at the same time, but they don't elevate the Sounders. They don't elevate the players around them. They elevate the results by scoring, and I don't want to say that that's bad or it's somehow lesser. But Keane and Donovan make players play better, and the one player that is all-time world-class ability, with a player like Landon Donovan out there, with a player like David Beckham out there, with a player like Robbie Keane out there, but is somebody who would not make anybody's all-time team without those guys, would be my second forward, Edson Buttle. He is a guy that I practically don't even like, but his effectiveness, when you have players like that, cannot be denied. His 2010 season was absolutely insane. He almost got the Golden Boot while taking time off for the World Cup. The 9 goals in 6 games to start off the season, fluke. I will mention that all day. But with the kind of space that he would get with playing next to Robbie Keane, with the kind of elbows that he was able to soak up while playing for the Galaxy in ways that he never did for any other team, he becomes a player that is very worthy of starting on this 11.
So I almost feel like Edson Buttle is on this team just so you can rebut my, oh, look at how many of my players played in World Cups thing.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, it's when I think it's very telling that most of your players that have played in World Cups for Bruce Arena. If Bruce Arena did the coach the LA Galaxy first, then we'd have more World Cup vets than you. But the thing is I mean, if you look over like the players that he took with him, and I understand that they're not all American internationals on your team,
Mm-hmm.
but if I mean, just look at the players that he brought back to the Galaxy from his old World Cup teams in Pablo Mastroeni, in in Greg Berhalter, in Eddie Lewis. Like these are guys who came back for not even an entire year in the case of Frankie Hayduk, and just decided, and just because he just can't help but bring guys with him that he already knows.
Yeah. I mean, it worked pretty well for him in 02.
It did indeed. Not so much in 2006. Not quite so much in 2006, but we don't. I think we all choose to forget that there was a World Cup in 2006. As unforgettable as that final may have been.
So we did tie Italy. And we were screwed over in that Italy game.
We were the only team to score on Italy, I believe, until the final.
Right. I think you might be right. And although
it wasn't an own goal, but whatever.
You know, fuck that. We were in the position to make the goal happen, so everyone can talk about both.
Exactly.
And I believe we lost to Ghana because someone tore their ACL while the Ghanaian guy was running past him, or he kicked the ball astray. He made an errant pass, and then he crumpled to the ground, and then Ghana ran past him and scored. And that's how
I can't really comment on that because the 2006 World Cup is a little bit of a blur for me. So I can neither confirm nor deny your claim. But all I mean to say is like, look, I agree with you. Like, the team wasn't as bad as all of that. I mean, I do think that they were good. If not, they were pretty old. But I mean, they were totally a fine team. It, but the point stands is that Bruce Arena, he has his guys and he brings them back. I am waiting. I'm waiting for that moment when DeMarcus Beasley is saying, like, you know what, I'm about to retire, and then he comes to LA for 6 months. Like, I'm waiting for that to happen.
He has his. I guess it's kind of been his MO because so many. So I had this like little book. I don't have it anymore because it's been 16 years. But I had this little book in 1998 of like MLS teams and their rosters and a bunch of
Yeah,
little
right.
things and the schedule and
Oh,
shit.
it's too bad you don't have that. That'd be a collector's item at this point.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But looking down like all the colleges people went to, it was like Virginia, 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 Maryland, Virginia, Virginia. It was awesome. It was great.
Exactly. Like, it's
Yeah.
all UVA guys
Yeah.
for him. And, like, I mean, he did the same thing. Like, I'm trying to remember the last time that he's had a coaching guy that he hasn't known for the past 10,000 years. Like, Kurt Onalfo isn't even that old. The only person he's ever worked for is Bruce Arena. I mean, that's not counting, of course, the time where he was just working for himself as head coach at DC, right? He coached you guys for a little while, right?
Yeah, he
Kurt
did.
Onalfo did.
It
Yeah.
was it was during a really bad 2010 year.
Yeah. But he like yeah, he is somebody who definitely sticks with the people that he knows. It's worked out well for him, and I actually think that it's a key to component of his success. But to say that
tree
one
is
of his
vast.
teams is better, what was that?
His coaching tree is vast.
Is
Ben
it's
Olsen,
and it's
Halsey.
insanely good.
Yeah.
Bob Bradley. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
they were talking about that in the frickin' in the Cup final. Is like, yeah, his former assistant Bob Bradley, when the clock was ticking down, they showed them talking to each other, and Bruce Arena was complaining about all the things that the refs didn't got wrong, which they did. There were a lot of things, by the way. We should have had a penalty in the fourth minute.
I'm pretty sure that Bruce Arena has never met a ref that he liked. So,
but still, fourth minute. Somebody, I forget who, I think it was Kubik. I had it written down on my notes, and when I publish the retro diary to this, it will be out there. But he took down Echeverry pretty clearly in the box. We should have 4 MLS Cups in 4 years.
Sure, you should. You just want to be at 5 before we were. So we're actually coming up on an hour here. So why don't we very quickly talk about who's your bench? Who are the 6 guys on your bench?
All right. So
and remember, one of those has to be a goalkeeper. So
I wrote down. Okay, so my backup goalie is Tom Prestis, and I've got Roy Lassiter, John Meissner, Kerry Talley, Mario Gori, Sean Medved, and Clint Pay.
I don't even. I don't actually know who most of those guys are. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry. I can't even. I don't know.
And I'm leaving off Sean Medved, Jeff Unger, and Brian Cantler.
LA bench. Robbie Rogers, AJ De La Garza. I mean, these guys are gonna sound. Obviously, people are gonna know who they are because they're more recent. Robbie Rogers, AJ De La Garza, Jaime Pinedo, Stefan Ishizaki, Mike McGee. And, oh God, how many is that? That's 5, right? What did I say? Yeah, that's 5. And Alan Gordon.
Alan Gordon, Jaime Pinedo. I'm a little bit surprised that you picked Ricketts over Pinedo, to be honest. I guess Ricketts was really good back then.
Ricketts was amazing at the time. Like, the thing is that the biggest difference between LA in 2010 and LA now is set pieces. Like, we used to be monstrous on set pieces and gave up absolutely nothing, and nowadays, like, our set pieces aren't that threatening, and especially in, well, a lot of this was due to the dark times between the sticks. We were leaking goals on free kicks, and you could not get a goddamn thing done in the box in the air when we had Donovan Ricketts and when he was playing very, very well.
Yeah. Okay.
He was not the greatest organizer, which is a big reason why he hasn't worked out as well for Portland. But we had Greg Berhalter teaching Omar Gonzalez how to do it. And so now that we have Jaime Pinedo, who is not a great organizer himself, but we have Omar Gonzalez organizing our defense, and it shows that we have a well-organized defense in the absence of somebody who speaks English very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that we don't need. But yeah, no, he's great. He was absolutely amazing.
Okay. I don't think of Ricketts as amazing. I thought he fluked into a goalkeeper of the year award, but he did backstop 2 supporter shields, so I can't argue with that.
He did in a row, no less, and
Yeah.
would have backstopped 2 MLS Cup finals if his forearms weren't made of glass, which is weird for a goalkeeper.
So basically, we're boiling our arguments down to I had more titles. You think your
Yes.
league was more? You guys were better when the MLS was more competitive.
And I think that between these 2 teams, that LA team wins every time. Between those two teams that we just mentioned.
Every time, no.
Yeah, oh
Half
yeah.
the time, no. Not even. we got this 3 games out of 5. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make
We're gonna make these teams in FIFA, and
Yes.
we're gonna play them out. You want to do this?
kind of sort of. I don't know what I just don't know how we would do that because we would have to have somebody rate
Well, you'd have to do
my players.
right, exactly. Yeah,
And-
it's like how are you gonna come up with player ratings?
Yeah, I don't know. FIFA, get it on this.
Yeah, yeah. Can we talk to EA? What's the team in France that makes FIFA? I think. And so.
They're from Canada, I thought.
Oh, is it Montreal? Is it EA Montreal? I'm willing to believe that.
I think it's Vancouver. That's why the Vancouver Stadium.
Well, either way. Oh, that's right. That's why BC places in it, but no other MLS teams are. Oh, okay. I always wondered why. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I always thought it just because it was pretty, which it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, guys, come on, get on that. We gave you the player names, so I fully expect to hear back from them pretty soon. I'm sure they'll hit us up on Twitter. Like we won't even have to ask them.
Yeah, absolutely. They are so on us.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'd be curious to take this question to the subreddit. I think a lot of people will be
As
on
would
your side.
I. As would
think a lot
I.
of people will be on your side just because of recency bias. No one remembers the 90s like I do.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sure that there is an extreme lack of familiarity with teams from the 90s, and so it'll be difficult to say. But it'd be interesting to see what people think that the parameters really should be. Because, I mean, if we're talking about, like, the Bulls from the 90s versus the Lakers from the 70s, I mean, just like fitness standards being what they were even then, like that Bulls team would probably kick the shit out of the Lakers from the time.
Yeah, and it is hard to like. Those primers are kind of difficult because I look at soccer now, and I've been watching quite a few '90s soccer games, and just in general, soccer has improved, and that makes sense because
Absolutely, yeah.
Soccer
Well, I mean,
evolves. Well,
I don't think the game is evolving that much. I think it's really just fitness standards are evolving, and so that the game is just getting faster as a result.
Yeah.
And I really do think that's the main thing. Unlike something like basketball, where you actually do see players doing things that they weren't doing 10 years ago,
Right.
and not just for reasons of having bigger, stronger guys on the court.
You know what we could do? We just ask Bruce Arena. Hey Bruce, who is better, 90s DC or your team right now?
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll put something together, and I won't email Bruce Arena because he won't give a shit. But Dave Sarakin might, and I believe Dave
is like color commentator or something.
No. He's our assistant coach or the associate head coach, and I believe he was there in DC. Let's see. Because he also used to be he was the assistant coach for DC United from 1997 to 1999. He was there the whole time.
Wow.
So he might like if I were to give him those two lists, there's like maybe a 20% chance that he would versus the 0% chance that Bruce Arena would.
So just get him on the podcast. Just tell him to he'll solo this for us.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll be great. Like I'll, the coaching staff routinely goes to Galaxy 2 games, so surely I could just go up to him and be like, "Here, you want to listen to this hour-long thing on my phone, and then tell me what you thought about it?" So I think that'll work out for me. I'll let you know how it goes. Their home opener is March 22nd, so I'll let you know how it goes.
Definitely. All right. So that is it for us. I think we're gonna close it there because it's been over an hour now.
Yeah.
And we were hoping to do this in under half an hour, but and this would have it might have happened had our moderator Josh showed up, but he had work stuff to do. I guess I can't blame him. But anyway, if you have an opinion on this question, let us know. And thanks for coming out. We'll do a regular podcast coming out at the end of the week. And have fun. Thanks for listening.